Whose idea was that? Because they're a genius.
I would say that was probably my wife.
Boost, Booze, and Barbecue. Hello and welcome to Boost, Booze, and Barbecue. This is Andy, and we are going hard into the barbecue today. I have a special guest on, David Sandusky. He's been in the industry for a long time. He's doing some really interesting stuff with barbecue. We had a really good conversation, and I'm telling you guys, really interesting stuff that he's doing. Seriously, he's bringing a fine dining, almost gastronomica kind of a twist on barbecue, and I kind of love it. I really do. I mean, I usually look at this stuff and think, wow, that's super pretentious. But, you know, when people are doing it right and they really have a passion for it, it's different. It takes it to a whole other level. And David just explains himself so well. And I was very impressed during the conversation that we got to have. So I will go ahead and put him through, but not before telling you about the t-shirt giveaway that we have going on right now. If you go out and you like us on iTunes, and you know what? I'm going to go ahead and expand this. If you review us on iTunes, or if you review us on Facebook, you will be entered to win a t-shirt. And it's like I said last week, you guys, we don't have very many reviews on iTunes, and we don't even have that many on Facebook either. And so your chances of winning are really, really high. So go out there, give us a like, give us a review, give us a shout out. Let us know how we're doing, and let us know if we can be doing anything better for you guys. So thank you in advance for doing that, and please enjoy the show. David Sandusky, how are you, my friend?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks so much for letting us talk to you about this stuff. The Beast Butchery and Block, the Beast Craft Barbecue Company, those are where you can find David at any given time. And they are doing some incredible stuff. We're just talking about it off the air. Let's talk about the Craft Barbecue Company to start off with. What do you guys got going on over there?
Sure. So to start off, I should say that Beast as a title is actually not really a noun. It's an adjective for the craft barbecue that we are creating. It's very hands-on. It's very not that barbecue isn't in other places, but ours, we like to set the bar a little higher. We like to be very involved in the processes, and we're just extremely particular. So Beast was a great way for us to describe the level of quality that we wanted to produce. For instance, in the competition circuit, you know, those guys, they're all my friends, bless them for doing what they do. You know, they can cook 5 different briskets and put a few slices out of a few and be fine. We're in the restaurant business. It's a little bit different. We have to be consistent because we have to make money. We have to sell the product. So it's a much different situation. And so, you know, a lot of competition cooks will tell you that they don't enjoy going to barbecue restaurants because while on the circuit they can put out maybe hopefully a 8 or 9 out of 10 in quality, they expect when they go to a barbecue restaurant that they're hoping the restaurant can hit a 6. Because there's just a huge difference in selling it versus competing with it. So we try to bridge the gap, and we try to be, if we can consistently put out a 7 or 8 in the restaurant, we feel like we've really accomplished something. And that's what we've done. We've really upped the game. We've kind of put some, heavy hitters on notice and kind of let them know that they can't rest on their laurels. And so to us, kind of translates into the name. It's just kind of being a beast all the time, and so, we carried that over into the new concept as well. But yeah, to us, it's cool. It's kind of a play on craft beer with craft barbecue. We just wanted people to know that this wasn't something that was overproduced or done in a way that doesn't speak to what we stand for with not only quality, but sustainable farming and things of that nature. So we'll use a lot of heritage breeds. We try to do local stuff as well, but we definitely focus on some heritage breeds and things like that too. So I guess you could say it's kind of high end for barbecue, but to us, it's craft.
I really like that, man. And people don't realize how difficult it is to churn out that 7 or 8 consistently. I hate to do this to my listeners. We just talked about this on a previous episode with the head brewer of Mazama, but we talked about how important consistency is and how often people miss the mark because it's not as easy as people think it is. And so really good on you guys for sitting down and going, how do we consistently churn out as near to competition barbecue as we can get? I mean, that's very, very impressive. And then, of course, your pairings that you do. Everyone needs to go and check out their Facebook page. It's Beastcraft Barbecue, at Beastcraft Barbecue, because I love that consistently you guys post these photos of your beer pairings with what you're cooking. Whose idea was that? Because they're a genius.
I would say that was probably my wife. She's the director of marketing. Really the craft barbecue thing was from her. She loved the way that beer was being produced, especially in St. Louis. I mean, St. Louis is beer city, America. There's so many craft breweries here and stuff. Just, besides Anheuser-Busch, beer is a huge, huge thing here. And so it's kind of ingrained in our mindset and what we do in our culture. And so we wanted to take those aspects of not being the big box company, just really doing it at a really defined, very specific level. And, it's turned out well. We pair beers on the back end, but we pair with woods on the front. So it's constantly pairing, and it's not just beer. It's taking some concepts like, well, for instance, I'm of the opinion that not all meats go with all woods, by all means. If I walk into a barbecue restaurant and I see that everything is cooked on hickory, I'm like, man, have you guys tasted hickory? Because it's just not great on everything. For instance, beef, right? Brisket. Well, there's a reason why they don't cook with hickory on brisket in Texas. It's because it tastes like garbage, in my opinion. Tend to be opinionated, but that stuff is so strong that it competes with the dominance of the beef itself. Beef innately is very dominant, so they just clash and they don't marry well. So you need a wood that is going to be robust, but one that will allow the beef to stand out and be the beef on its own, especially if you're using heritage breeds like we are. So we actually use white oak on beef because it kind of gives it a buttery finish. Actually, it's cousin of post oak, but it grows like weeds around here. And then we'll use cherry on ribs because, it's basically bacon wrapped around a bone. It just speaks a little sweeter to me, and I love the red color. So we're always playing with some different things on the front and then beers in the back. We love to support the local breweries and microbreweries and stuff like that. And we get a few that are from across the country or even international from time to time. If we taste great, we're willing to give it a try. I suppose the best way to wrap it up and to put it for the restaurant is, we don't hold ourselves to the norm. We don't really look to what everyone else is doing. Frankly, we don't care. I'm not here to be competition style. I'm not here to be Texas style, Carolina style. I don't care. So we talk about this all the time. And I guess this kind of goes along with the name and the edge that we kind of bring to barbecue, especially in St. Louis, which is a huge barbecue market. We want to be the wrench in the gears. We want you to come in and be offended. And while, I'm obviously, like I said, I'm friends with a lot of competition barbecue guys, and I hear them on the circuit say things like, well, I hope this rub doesn't offend the judges. We don't want it to be too sweet. We don't want to offend the judges. Something like that. That's great for them. But for me personally, I want you to walk in and be pissed. I want you to be offended. I want you to be challenged and be like, man, I haven't had it like this. I'm a little off put by the fact that it's not how I expected it to be, but then be like challenging yourself, like, but this is really good. And it's something that maybe I should consider, or something like that. I want to challenge the status quo. Mm-hmm. And that's really why I pursued barbecue my background is all in fine dining, really. But I got into barbecue in 2007 because I wanted to challenge it. I knew that this was a genre that, for one, it was fun, but it's highly competitive. And there's a stack of good old boys at the top. And they just have the whole industry on lockdown, that they're the guys and the way that they do it is the proper way to do it. I don't believe that stuff. I don't think there's a such thing as a secret recipe. I don't think that there's, one guy that does it right. I wanted to move them. I wanted to go in and start throwing elbows and say, okay, you guys at the top, I want you to know I'm coming for you. And so the restaurant has that attitude. It has that chip on its shoulder. And so we're carrying that into the inner city, which is really what the concept is built for. And we're really gonna make a mark when we're in the city for sure, and then see where it goes from there.
I love that, man. And it's funny. We haven't met in person and we just started talking the other day, but I love what it is you're doing. I've been following your stuff for a while. I didn't actually know that you came from a fine dining background, but the more you talk, the more I'm starting to realize it. I mean, it should have made more sense to me because when I look at the photos on your company's Facebook page, the plating style of what you're doing, you're using the aluminum trays and the butcher paper, which people are used to seeing in like a barbecue restaurant. But the way you're plating everything is just so beautiful and picturesque. And watching the videos of you garnishing, especially your smoked chicken, your sauce that you garnish it with,
right.
You have got just the chef's hand for it. You're laying it down so perfectly. I was looking at that just going, where is this guy coming from? This isn't a typical barbecue person. And now I know why. And it's just funny to hear you say you wanted to push those boundaries. You wanted people to be angry when they came in because you were challenging the concept of what they thought was good barbecue. And you know what, man? I really like that you're not making like pulled pork flavored balloons that people sit and inhale and that's their meal, the really weird, funky, some of that stuff I find very off-putting. But what you're doing is you're taking the essence of barbecue and you're just shifting it just enough to make it seem a little bit uncomfortable. And that is a really interesting concept.
Yeah, that's the goal. It's the thing is that barbecue is by nature very simple. Not that it's, I guess, simple to master, but it's simple in its concepts. And so I don't want to cloud it with a bunch of pretentiousness that don't make sense. I think there's a time and place for that. But overall, barbecue doesn't need to be that. It doesn't. And so I'm very careful with what I do with some of the things that I bring from the fine dining end of things. I want to show really more than anything that you can be a barbecue restaurateur and give a damn about your animals. I want to show that you can buy a properly raised pig, a properly raised cow, and you can do very, very simple things with them and show how amazing they were raised, how they were harvested, how they were fed. And you don't have to do more than that. Mm-hmm. That's the focus. It's, we taught all the time, there's several items on our menu that are just cooked in salt and pepper because that's all it needs. So instead of buying the cheapest commodity things we can get our hands on and doing as much as we can to them to make them amazing, we're literally buying the best animals available in the country and doing almost nothing to them. And just allowing them to shine through. And it's amazing. The difference, for instance, in the, just the pulled pork, for instance. We're using a product out of Minnesota that's known to be the best pig in the country for barbecue. We were the first and only restaurant in the nation to be using this product across the whole menu. Now there's a couple of restaurants popping up because we've proved that it can be done. But this is a very, very expensive product. The thing is, when you taste it, you don't have to decipher the muddiness or the dirtiness of the taste of the pork. It doesn't have that sweaty pig taste, that pissed off pig taste. Mm-hmm. It comes off very clean. It comes off like it was meant to taste this way. It's an incredible product. We actually, when we started testing it, I had to pull my rub off of it because, and I love my rub, obviously, my rub was making it worse because it's raised in a way that, it's so well marbled and it's so flavorful that, the rub had to go. We switched to salt and pepper straight on the pulled pork. It's incredible. It has so much flavor on its own. And so, we use those concepts throughout the entire menu. We're just doing simple things and we're able to push that envelope and make people uncomfortable in the business just by doing those simple adjustments and saying, you know what, we care. We care where it comes from. We care how it's raised. and we're not going to overdo this. We just don't want to cloud it, if that makes sense.
Oh, it totally makes sense, man. I mean, in Oregon, small batch, farm to table, really caring about where your food comes from. That is a huge movement across this entire state. I don't know. I don't want to get you sidetracked, but is that relatively new where you're at, or has it been going on for a while?
So Illinois does not allow farm to table.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's a little disappointing. But I mean, I understand what the Department of Agriculture is trying to accomplish, but it's I feel like it shortchanges us as chefs a little bit in the state. Missouri doesn't share that. It'll be a little easier for us to do that at the new store that's going to be opening. But we get as close as we can to that. We definitely try to be as local as possible in our produce and things of that nature. But, it is what it is for now.
Yeah.
But I love the concept. Absolutely. I love the connection to the land and the farm. And that's really what got me excited about food in general. Side note, I'm going to rabbit trail here. I'm also a theology major. I'm a dropout. And what really interests me is how these cultures and these subcultures around the world, they all have their own way of barbecuing. They have their own basic fire, coals, meat kind of scenarios, and they differ greatly. But what's interesting to me is how that connected with what they grow locally and what they raise locally. And then in turn, how their politics evolve and how their social structures evolve, how their religious structures evolve. It's all tied to the land, and that just blows me away. And so the closest thing to that in the United States, in my opinion, is what we know as barbecue here. And so I really connect to that concept of really touching base with the farms and the ranches and meeting the animals. We've done that. We love to go up to Compart in Minnesota and meet the pigs and things of that nature. It's just I don't know what to tell you. I was born for this. I'm nerding out about it.
No, hey, I love it. And listen, man, my listeners love this stuff too. Whenever we can get somebody that just totally geeks out about this stuff, it seems to just kind of elevate the show beyond where I could take it by myself. But okay, I want to hear all about your background. But before we get into that, you started talking a little bit about the new endeavor that you have going on. And so I want to go ahead and get into that before we get too sidetracked. Tell us what you've got going on.
So this spring we'll be opening a concept called Beast, Butcher, and Block. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the heart of Beast Craft Barbecue Company and install it into the inner city in St. Louis. We'll have a first come, first serve queue line style barbecue restaurant. But that barbecue restaurant will be powered by an internal butchery. This butchery will not only supply the restaurant, but will have a retail presence in the Grove neighborhood where we'll be installing this. And then that butchery will have an offset that will be a reservation only. It's a chef's table of sorts. It's a room that I'm calling the Scullery with a K. It's a live fire reservation only setting where I can do some R&D. I can create stuff. I can do whatever I want. If I want, I can do a chop house on the weekends in this room. It'll be about 36 seats, and it's just an intimate way to connect with live fire cooking, fire to table, and just have a good time. Turn the room a couple of times and just have a blast with the clients that are also in love with that live fire concept.
Yes, the live fire is so... There's something just so visceral about it, whenever you start a campfire or a bonfire or whatever, think back to when you're kids. I feel bad for kids that live too far in the city and never got to experience a bonfire with their friends. But there's something about just sitting around a fire and just hanging out and talking to your friends and staring at that fire. And so bringing the cooking into that, it's one of the reasons why I love going out in the mornings on the weekends and cooking my entire breakfast. Well, my wife and I's entire breakfast over my cowboy grill setup, which is just an open pit with a couple of grill grates that you can move around above it, And I just, Is there any way I can convince you to move to Oregon with this concept?
Write the check, man.
I'm going to get working on that, my friend. I love it, though. It takes everything to a whole other level. I know it's gotten kind of popular with, gosh, I'm trying to remember what the restaurants are, but you hear these stories about these exclusive Michelin star restaurants where the floor is glass and you get to look down into the kitchen and it's all below you, or they project the kitchen onto the wall, like you're watching a movie while you're eating, stuff like that. It's becoming very popular. And so what you're doing here, where you're just kind of letting people come in and watch you break down the different components and then cook it right in front of them, that is awesome.
Yeah, people want to connect. We're in this age of information where everything flies in seconds from place to place, and it's so easy to lose contact, not just with what you're eating, but with family members and friends. And I agree with you, those campfires, they kind of bring you back to that primal need for community and that love for your surroundings and your land. And to me, it's absolutely beautiful and something that I just want to reconnect with. And I hope to open several live fire concepts, because I'm just so fixated on it. I know that it's kind of like, it's a little faddish right now. Like there's a lot of people that are into it, but they're into it for good reason. This is not, in my opinion, just something that's going to go away in 10 years. This is a callback to real culture. It's a callback to, it's like a reset, in my opinion, where you see the restaurant industry become so saturated and everything is so fabricated, and everything's done ahead of time, and there's all these shortcuts that are made and all these things. But if you can just sit in front of a fire, the fire will talk to you. It will have a whole conversation with you. You can put 1,000 things on a fire and end up with a different result than what you could have expected doing it any other way. There's just this beauty in just, I don't know, being a part of the earth in that sense. Like, I don't know. Like I said, I think it's a hit of the reset button, and I'd love to explore it even further than what we're doing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. And you know what? You said that it's kind of just popular, almost to the point of a cliche right now. But the reason why it's popular is because it really does speak to everyone. There are going to be very few people that would walk into a place like what you're opening and not feel some kind of an emotion, and honestly, probably some strong emotions as well. An excitement, a curiosity. There's going to be people walking in there that are just, they're going to look like a kid in a candy store. You know what I mean?
We just want to give them an experience that they can't get anywhere else. Not just in St. Louis, but literally anywhere. We want them to, what this does is it allows me to not be held back by the limitations of the barbecue restaurant. It gives me that ability to just create new things and really take not just barbecue, but meat in general to a different level. For me, it's an art thing. It's like, I want to get back to painting pictures, if that makes sense, with the food. And I think the scullery is gonna give me quite an avenue to release that. Mm-hmm. And I actually argue with restaurateurs about this all the time. They're like, sell food, sell food, sell food. Who cares how it goes out or whatever, as long as you're selling it. And that's just not who I am. Like, I want people to come because they want to experience my art. I don't want them to come because they want, some cheap average barbecue sandwich. I want them to experience my failures, my emotions, all the things that I've trucked through to get to this point. I want you to taste that. I want it to be a part of what you're doing for dinner tonight. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to connect in that way. And I don't know. I just want to do something different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I completely understand where you're coming from. And actually kind of begs the question for me, how do you feel about the fact that you are doing something that means so much to you that no one else is really doing? And you are doing it so that you can offer people an experience that really they can't get hardly anywhere else. I mean, how does that make you feel that we've lost that much connection to our food?
I'm disappointed in it, but at the same time, I see a lot of opportunity. everybody talks about how saturated the industry is and all this stuff. And the difference between me and a lot of restaurateurs is that I'm not setting out to operate in the middle. I don't have any interest in being in the middle 98% of operators. I want to operate in the top 1%. And that's who I compete with, is the top 1%. Mm-hmm. And so I don't rely on things like marketing. I don't rely on things like location, because I operate in the top 1%. And that's kind of how I view this. I think if I'm going to impact the space and I'm going to really make like I said, the good old boys at the top question what they've relied on for the last 30 years, that's how I need to do it. I have to operate in that top 1%.
Mm-hmm. You got to march to that beat of your own drum, buddy.
Yep. Got to be the only one, I was born to do this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that. And just listening to you, I can tell that this is something that you have more passion for how you barbecue than most people have passion for anything else in their lives. So it's very impressive that you're coming off this way. And now I do need to roll it back, because I'm sure everybody is curious how you got your start, how you got this just insatiable hunger for making the best that you can.
That is a long answer. Well, let me put it like this. I was raised by Iceman, Val Kilmer, and Top Gun. There's no points for second place. I've probably seen that movie 1,000 times, not exaggerating. But that's how I've been since I was in adolescence, I guess. I was a trophy kid of sorts, and I was a basketball player. It didn't work out. And it didn't work out as good as I was, because I was more into sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And so, I look back on that, and I always have since I got into my career. I've looked back on that as motivation. I'm always kind of chasing a ghost. I'm always like trying to one up what I've done in the past. And I guess in a way, make up for the failures of the past. That's the fuel. It's like I knew that I would never, ever experience a failure like that by my hands ever again. And so I became extremely obsessive in whatever it was I was doing, to the point where it's obnoxious to my wife how obsessive I get about particular things. But that's kind of what separated me, is that obsessiveness, because I know that for me, it's all or nothing. I'm going to be the best at what I do or nothing. And I'm just getting started. This is kind of the whole thing. I had a restaurateur actually ask me last year, we were talking about how many restaurants we've worked in and things like that. And he says, I've opened 4 restaurants that failed before I hit the big time with the concept that I have now. And he looked at me and he's like, how many have you failed at? And I said, man, I don't know what to tell you. I'm batting 1,000 over here. I'm 1 for 1, and I might have a little bit of luck associated with that, but for me, it's just pure grit. It's just like, it's all or nothing. And I think that's one of the things that's kind of separated us and made us who we are, is just that desire to no points for second place.
Mm-hmm. Almost as undervalued as good barbecue.
Yeah.
That fortitude to just keep pushing and keep striving and be able to look at yourself and go, okay, how can I improve this? Because the results that I'm getting now, not working out.
Always. We've been open for 4 years. We've got several Best in St. Louis awards. We've got more awards than we can hang on the walls. That's not an exaggeration. We're losing wall space. We've got Best in the State by Food and Wine Magazine. Thrillist named us top 33 in America. And we're still changing things. We're still constantly coming up with new ideas and figuring out how to do it better, more efficiently, better tasting, better moisture content, better smoke. It's constant. It never ends. We've probably changed our brisket 25 times. It's just a never-ending desire to push it. We go on barbecue crawls all the time. And we do that because we really want to find objectively those that are doing it better. And so we're always seeking that out, and we find them. And when we do, we put a target on it, and we're like, well, this place has a better rack of ribs than we do. Well, we're hell-bent on making sure that we don't feel like that anymore. It's just constant. everything that we put our hands to is the best that we can put it out, or it's not on the menu. We keep the menu dynamic in that way. So we're not going to serve you pulled pork just for the sake of selling you pulled pork because we're a barbecue restaurant. We're selling the pulled pork today because we felt like the pulled pork was incredible today. That's just like for me, a huge difference for us. We're willing to make that call. If we don't feel like something made the grade, we're going to take the loss. And so we've gotten very, very good at not taking the loss.
I love that, man.
And trying to find the consistent ways to get that done. So it's tough, especially in barbecue where the food cost is so high, with everything being mostly protein. It's a tough gig for sure, but yeah, it's constantly evolving. Even if it's the sides, if it's up there, it doesn't matter. No matter what the product is, it's all or nothing.
For sure. It has to be. And I like that you guys do a dynamic menu there. There are so many restaurants. I hate to say this, and no offense to anybody that's tuning in that has a restaurant like this, but when you walk into a restaurant and they've literally got 80, 90, 100 items on the menu that are available every single day, you can't expect every one of those to be good. I mean,
no, you can't.
To be honest, I don't know that I would expect even 2 of them, 3 of them to be that good.
There's one restaurant chain that really surprises me. Don't hate me, y'all out there that disagree with me. But the only place that I've been to where I felt like 90% of the dishes I've had were actually really good was the Cheesecake Factory. And I don't know how they do it. I almost want to go work there just to see how they do it because their menu is enormous. Besides that, they're a unicorn, man. It's damn near impossible.
That's super funny. And you don't think it has anything to do with the drinks that they pour a little too heavy?
Maybe.
So when you kind of figured out that you wanted to go into food, what was your first food job?
I worked as a dishwasher at Steak and Shake when I was 16 years old.
Yes, that is the perfect place to start.
Yeah, I got fired. I was lazy and high all the time. Didn't work out so well.
That's super funny. Well, I know that's not the fine dining experience you're talking about, so you must have figured yourself out at some point.
I did, yeah. I mean, I worked in a few bars when I was young, and I worked at, on the food side and a couple of local restaurants and things. And I worked at a restaurant on the Illinois side of the Mississippi that was kind of trying to be fine dining, but really wasn't, getting the job done. And I ended up enjoying some of the concepts and wanted to explore it a little further. And so I started working in the inner city. I moved over and worked in a whole bunch of different hotels and really high-end restaurants and things like that because I was just infatuated with things that I couldn't do, or a lot. When you're a kid, at least for me, when I was a kid, I was all into the really pretentious things. I learned how to cook a 36-hour demi-glace before I learned how to cook rice. Like I was always looking for like the big ticket, the next level kind of stuff, and wasn't always grounded. And so I worked at places that the menus were dynamic, which is kind of where I pull from for this. I had a restaurant in particular where I worked at a restaurant in particular where we got seafood flown in from all over the world every day, produce from all over the world every day.
Wow.
And we would literally create a brand new seafood menu based on those items and their seasonal availability every single day. And everything was from scratch. So it was really difficult to keep up with, really challenged everybody that was there. But it was amazing. And we all had a blast, and it was a great time. And we were so proud of being able to do that kind of stuff. So I really call back to that place a lot in my mind, and just, I try to keep that mentality of just constantly challenging ourselves to put out our best in a dynamic way. And frankly, the dynamic way of doing it is a lot more fun. Let me just put that out there for any restaurateurs listening that are thinking about doing something like this. I call it being a slave to the menu. I will never, ever in my life, ever again be a slave to my own menu. That thing will not dictate to me how my day is going to go in prep lists and things like that. I love the versatility of the dynamic menu. We can change it based on what's happening in the weather or what's going on with local events and what's seasonal and what rancher wants us to try, some new meat or whatever. We can just change it. We just change it. Something doesn't turn out, well, we just change it. It's so intuitive, in my opinion. And I'm not sure that I'll ever open a restaurant ever again with a static menu.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That exclusivity too really helps. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but let's be real. If you're making something that's really good and you don't have it on the menu every day, I mean, look at, everybody's going to know Franklin Barbecue. So I'm going to use that as an example. He is open until they run out of stuff. Yep. And because of that, the lines are super long and he's got this cult following. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a dynamic menu.
Yeah, we do it the same way. We like to sell out. We don't do just fresh daily anymore. We're doing fresh per shift now. Everything is within a few hours of being out of the pits. It really makes a lot of sense, especially for barbecue. It makes a lot of sense because, frankly, barbecue on the second day just sucks. Yeah. It just does. It's not anywhere close to being as good as it was when it was fresh. And so if you're running a static menu in barbecue, those that know already know that you're serving old stuff. You have to. Like, there's, if you're going to have everything all night for dinner, then that's the crux of it, man. That's what you pay to have, the entire menu all night to appease those few guests that are like, I can't believe I came in here for ribs and you don't have ribs. Mm-hmm. Well, we tell them you should have came in earlier. We everything's an educated guest every day. We try to have enough, but we encourage them to try something new. And usually that works out. It gives us an opportunity to create relationship with the client and teach them a little bit about the process and then also about some other products that they may have not have tried. And all of a sudden it becomes, they're not just telling their friends, man, the ribs are really good there. Now they're telling them, I've tried a lot of stuff on the menu and everything I've had has been amazing. It's a totally different conversation. And so that's what we try to push. And frankly, it's not great for everybody. There's some customers that are just not happy that things change in the menu. They'll be in the middle of the line and, brisket may sell out and come off and you hear a collective sigh and some of them will leave and stuff like that. But that's the price you pay because, and I tell them this all the time when it comes up, I would rather them be pissed off at me that we sold out of the product than them be receiving an average product and being okay with it.
Yeah. I
want the most amazing food on their plate, come hell or high water, no matter what. That's the goal. And if that's the way it's going to be, then there's just going to be a few customers that don't understand. And frankly, that's just the cost of doing business that way. But it is what it is. We just want the best food out there.
Have you had a customer yet, try to get in your face about running out of something?
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. There's some, people are really passionate about barbecue. They're fierce about it. And so, there's definitely emotions tied to it time to time. And, I'm pretty good at diffusing that stuff. Like I said, it's usually just an opportunity to hook up with them. And then after the conversation, they remember your name. They'll tell everybody how awesome it was to meet you and that you explained and spent time with them, or that they agree with your passion now that they understand it. But then, there's just that few that aren't going to get it, and that's fine. They're not my clients. They're just not. It's fine. For me, it's not just a customer relationship. It's a client kind of thing. In a way, it sounds silly, but I'm kind of servicing their barbecue needs, their premium barbecue needs. So as far as I'm concerned, I can fire a client if I have to. And I know that most restaurateurs probably won't feel that way, but it even gets down to with us, like if a customer comes in and says, I'm placing an order on Friday to pick up because my son's birthday is on Saturday and we're going to eat it that day, we tell them no, we don't take their money. We would rather not take the payment because we know that barbecue, after it's reheated the next day improperly by people who we don't control, it's going to be a disaster. It's not going to be the product that we want on the table. So we'll use the opportunity to be like, let us deliver it. We'll come up with some other solutions, but frankly, we won't sell it.
Well, I was about to ask you, because I know that you guys smoke up like close to 400 turkeys a year or something like that now. So I was wondering if you guys kind of cater to, if a person wants your barbecue and they want it on a particular day for an event. I was actually going to ask if you guys do that for people, or if it's just simply first come, first serve.
Absolutely. They can always get it ahead of time, and we'll add that to our counts and increase the amount we're smoking that day for that. But everything's on my terms. And I think that's a little different probably for a lot of restaurateurs as well. Like I said, I'm obsessive, and I'm not, it's my art. It's not, I didn't get into this to sell meat. It's great that we do. I love making money at what I enjoy doing, but this is my art, and I'm not going to just like give somebody a half painted picture. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, for sure.
So a little different for me.
Now that you're talking in those kind of terms, let me ask you, what type of smokers do you use, and what would you equate the smokers to in an art sense? So
Beast Craft Barbecue Company opened with Old Hickory rotisseries. We have several of them, and we'll be opening the next location with some Old Hickory rotisseries as well. And I do recommend those if you're doing a lot of high volume, because they're very consistent. They're thermostat controlled. They do a great product, especially if you know how to manipulate them to minimize their weaknesses. Weaknesses meaning that there's just certain meats, for instance, that don't do their best in a rotisserie, brisket being one of them. And so as I've grown through barbecue, honestly, I love Old Hickory, but I've kind of gotten tired of the just using the rotisserie with the thermostat, and I'm getting to a point where I want more of that connection with the coals and the fire. And so I'm getting that, obviously, like I said, in the scullery in the new location, but I got a feeling barbecue restaurants that I open in the future are going to go to live coals rather than the rotisseries and things, because I've kind of, I guess I've kind of grown out of them in a way. And I just want to connect with the animal in a better way than what we've established at this point. They've been great. Don't get me wrong. Like the stuff's amazing that's coming out of there, obviously, but I just want more than that, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, sure. It's not always about what works or is working. It's about pushing yourself and pushing those boundaries. And like you said, getting a better connection with what you're trying to do. I'm actually 100% with you. I love my offset smokers, but there is something about being able to cook something the right way over an open pit that it's just such a different experience, not just for the person cooking, but for the people eating it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It even has somewhat of a different flavor profile. Now, I'll be the first to tell you, because I argue with guys about this a lot, and they'll be like, well, like for instance, guys in Texas. Okay, the only barbecue that is real barbecue is stuff that's not made in a rotisserie. They're so hard-headed about it and whatever. It's just not the case. I'm willing to tell anyone out there that I will beat you on a rotisserie over your live coals any day of the week, because I know how to manipulate them. But that doesn't mean that it's like everything that I want to do or the future. To me, like I said, I want to get that further connection, and I love that attachment to the ranch and the animals and all that stuff. And I just want to breathe it. I just want to like explore it more and just like have more of a relationship with that side of it. Mm-hmm. And so, that's what we're doing. And that's what we've been built on is those rotisseries, and they've been great, but I think it's all heading in a direction from here.
Well, you're expanding yourself as a barbecue chef, as an artist. You're pushing your own boundaries to make a better product for your customers. And actually, I really liked something you said. You said customers, and then you kind of corrected yourself and said clients. And I like that. I like how there is a distinction there. People don't really realize, but when you have a regular coming to you and they don't just appreciate what you do, but they are coming to you looking for advice. They're coming to you looking for an experience that's out of the ordinary for them, and they come to rely on that from you. They stop just being a customer and they become a client. So I'm really glad you said that.
Yeah, it's a totally different relationship. So, I talk about this a lot, but I feel like the industry is headed that direction with oversaturation, which has kind of bred over specialization. I think that everybody was a customer at one point decades ago. And then everybody was, I think it was in the 80s, Hilton started kind of a wave of things in their training that was like, everybody's our guest, that kind of bled into the restaurant industry. And then it became everybody's family here and stuff like that. And those are great concepts. But I feel like the over specialization has created this new wave that I kind of think we're at the beginning of, where we can be a little more controlled about what we're doing and how much say we have in the product. So it's really quite different in the sense that, back when we used to say the customer is always right? I'm here to tell you that's just not the case. And you may say different because, well, they're making the payment, so whatever they want is what they get. And honestly, that's not how it rolls in my kind of places. It's more, like I said, this is my art. This is what I'm passionate about. This is what I do.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, David, anybody that's ever worked in retail, hospitality, or food service, they are going to tell you 100% agree with you. The customer is not always right. And I am in those shoes. I worked for restaurants. I worked for retail outlets. And yeah, the only people who think that customers are always right, especially these days, are the ones that have never worked those jobs.
Yeah. Or in my opinion, the ones that operate in the middle 98% of the industry.
Yeah.
They rely on that, and that's fine. For me, I produce things a certain way. You can buy it or you cannot buy it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's more of you're paying for what I do versus you're paying for what you expect to get, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. And I actually appreciate you saying that. It's the sign of a good chef. Hey, before we go, I just wanted to ask you one more thing. I know that you were on the Budweiser Big Barbecue show. You
Correct.
Just very recently stepped away from that because you're obviously very busy opening this new restaurant. What do you think? Are we going to be able to hear your sparkling voice and your thoughts and opinions in a new show in the future, or are we just going to wait and see what happens?
I think so. I'll probably do some cameos on the Budweiser Big Barbecue show in the next year, but I think eventually I'll be doing my own thing. I have a good time with it. And as long as I'm having a good time with it, it's definitely a possibility to get it done.
I love it, man. And I have had a great time talking to you. Seriously. Let everybody know where they can find you, what you've got going on, and where they can go to get the best barbecue in Missouri.
So beastcraftbarbecue.com is the website right now, the only one that's operational. I believe the new website will be up and running in the next few months, but you can find us there. Pretty easy to find us on Google, that's for sure.
Awesome, man. I love it. We're going to have links to everything that David's got going on underneath of this episode at boostboostbbq.com. My friend, thank you so much for talking. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely, brother. And there he goes. What an incredible story, and the drive that this guy has. I mean, break me off a piece of that. You know what I'm talking about? Like, just the passion and the strive for excellence. It's off the charts. And honestly, it's really impressive. I'm sitting here as I'm listening to him and I'm just thinking, how do I find my way over to one of his places? Because they just sound so good. And I mean, of course, we've got really good barbecue around here, and I don't think I make half bad barbecue either. But I'll tell you what, somebody that is that serious about it, they're not going to be able to help but make good stuff. You know what I'm talking about? I'm jealous of the people over there in St. Louis that are going to be able to have some of his barbecue. And I do love the concept. I like the concept of doing a chef's table, open fire style barbecue restaurant. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. A little bit of like a mixture of, having your sushi bar made right in front of you, but instead you're having a world-class chef that is making your steak right in front of you on a fire that's going in front of your table. I like that concept a lot, and I know you can get it in some places, and I'm sure I'll get a few messages on this episode of people saying, hey, I've got that in my town. Great for you. I don't. I have to rely on myself to make this stuff. So one of these days, I'm going to make it out there and check out David's spot. And of course, like I said in the episode, links to everything he's doing underneath this episode on boostboozbbq.com. Man, we're just rolling into this new season with all of these incredible guests. I'm really kind of shocked, even though it's my own show. Over on Pardon My Fork, we've had the head brewer from Mazama. We've got Al Young from Four Roses Bourbon coming up this week. We've got L.C. May, the grandson of Clyde May from Clyde May's Whiskey. That's coming the week after. We've got a ton of really fun stuff coming for the 3BQ show. I think that I am going to do a call-in show once a month. You guys always seem to respond really well to that. And I've had a few people actually asking me, hey, when's the next call-in show? I want to see if I can make it. And I always appreciate hearing that. And I have no choice now but to give unto the masses what they want. So be looking forward to that. Also, we're lining up a schedule for live shows. It's probably going to be, starting off anyway, me talking into the camera live on Facebook. We're going to be doing one for 3BQ, and we're going to be doing one for Pardon My Fork. They're going to be on separate days. I'm thinking either Monday or Tuesday for 3BQ and Thursday or Friday for Pardon My Fork, but we'll see how it all shakes out. As soon as we got that figured out, we're going to let all you guys know, and I would really love for you to come over and join us. I think it's going to be a really good time, especially as we start getting a few more guests rolling into the live shows. It's going to be a ton of fun, and I really look forward to having you guys along for the ride. Speaking of the ride, you can find not just this episode, but all of the episodes at boostboozbbq.com. Check out that sister show that I was just talking about over at boostboozbbq.com/pardon my fork. Tons of fun stuff going on over there. Check out the Facebook at boostboozbbq and at pardon my fork. The Instagram is at boostboozbbq. You're going to find all kinds of stuff that we're putting up over there. So throw us a like, throw us the comment, let us know how we're doing with the show and if we can improve it all for you guys. We appreciate hearing that. We thank you for tuning in. We thank you for telling a friend. For David, this is Andy, and we will see you next time. Boost, Booze, and Barbecue.